being plain, I'd been called Beauty for over 6 years, and while I came to hate the name, I was too proud to ask that it be discarded. I wasn't really very fond of my given name, Honor, either, if it came to that. It sounded sallow and angular to me, as if honourable were the best that could be said of me. My sisters were too kind to refer to the increasing inappropriateness of my nickname. It was all the worse that they were as good-hearted as they were beautiful, and their kindness was sincerely meant. Our father, bless him, didn't seem to notice that there was any egregious and deplorable difference between his first 2 daughters and his youngest. On the contrary, he used to smile at us over the dinner table and say how pleased he was that we were growing into 3 such dissimilar individuals, that he always felt sorry for families who looked like petals from the same flower. For a while his lack of perception hurt me, and I suspected him of hypocrisy, but in time I came to be grateful for his generous blindness. I could talk to him openly about my dreams for the future, without fear of his pitying me or doubting my motives. The only comfort I had in being my sister's sister was that I was the clever one. To a certain extent, this was damning me with faint praise, in the same category as accepting my given name as an epithet accurately reflecting my limited worth. It was the best that could be said of me. Our governesses had always remarked on my cleverness in a pitying tone of voice, but at least it was true. My intellectual abilities gave me a release and an excuse. I shunned company because I preferred books, and the dreams I confided to my father were of becoming a scholar in good earnest and going to university. It was unheard of that a woman should do anything of the sort, as several shocked governesses were only too quick to tell me when I spoke a little too boldly, but my father nodded and smiled and said, "We'll see." Since I believed my father could do anything, except of course make me pretty, I worked and studied with passionate dedication, lived in hope, and avoided society and mirrors. Our father was a merchant, one of the wealthiest in the city. He was the son of a shipwright and had gone to sea as a cabin boy when he was not yet 10 years old. But by the time he was 40, he and his ships were known in most of the major ports of the world. When he was 40, too, he married our mother, the Lady Marguerite, who was just 17. She came of a fine old family that had nothing but its bloodlines left to live on, and her parents were more than happy to accept my father's suit, with its generous bridal settlements. But it had been a happy marriage, old friends told us girls. Our father had doted on his lovely young wife. My 2 sisters took after her, of course, except that her hair had been red gold and her eyes amber, and she had worshipped him. When I was 12, and Grace was 19, she became engaged to our father's most promising young captain, Robert Tucker, a blue-eyed, black-haired giant of 28. He set sail almost immediately after their betrothal was announced, on a voyage that was to take 3 long years, but bode fair to make his fortune. There had been a mask of courtesy acted out among the 3 of them, Robbie, Grace, and father, when the plans for the voyage and the wedding had first been discussed. Father suggested that they should be married right away, that they might have a few weeks together, and perhaps start a baby to give Grace something to do while she waited the long months for his return, before he set sail. The journey could be delayed a little. "Nay," said Robbie. He wished to prove himself first. It was no man's trick to leave his wife in her father's house. If he could not care for her himself as she deserved, then he was no fit husband for her. But he could not yet afford a house of his own, and 3 years was a long time. Perhaps she should be freed of the constraints of their betrothal. It was not fair to one so fair as she to be asked to wait so long. And then, of course, Grace in her turn stood up and said that she would wait 20 years if necessary, and it would be the greatest honor of her life to have the banns published immediately. And so they were, and Robbie departed a month later. Grace told Hope and me at great length about this mask just after it happened.
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.